I'm working with the New Perspectives Access 2007 text. I'm in Tutorial 6. I'm using the review assignment as an example, and I'm working on page 322, 323, Step 8, F. Now, if you've not seen the video on understanding a subform control, you really should view that first because it gives you some understanding of why you can't do what you think you might want to do with this. So let's take a look at my screen. I've got the companies with products form going here, and I want to count the number of products. It seems like I should simply be able to go in here and go equal count product ID. It won't work. That is because companies with products is a form, and the product ID, product type, price, unit, discount offered is another related form. They're not the same form. One's a main form, we call the other one a subform, but simply what they are is they're two forms that are related through the subform control. So I can't get directly into equal count product ID. What I have to do is I have to go in and I have to create a calculation for this calculation to call. So I'm going to slip into design view here. I'm going to open up my subform in a new window. Take a look at it here. Now, if I were to simply write a calculation that called product ID from this particular form, if I counted it, all I would get would be the same number over and over and over. That's not going to work. What I need to do is I need to create a calculation that's going to count some value that's on this field. Now or on this form, and I'm going to count product ID. Why am I counting product ID? I'm counting product ID because it is the primary key. And by definition, the primary key will not be a null value. So it'll give me a true count of the number of products that are in this table. Some of the other fields could be blank. Price could be blank because maybe we've forgotten to put in a price, or the product type, maybe we don't know what it is yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to count product ID, and I'm going to do this the easy way. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select product ID, and I'm going to do a Control C. I'm going to come down to the form footer, and I'm going to do a Control V to paste it into my form footer. I want it in my footer. I don't want it in the detail section. Now this is not going to work yet. I need to come in and edit this formula. I'll go ahead and close that. I want it to say equal count, because I want to count it. And count is a function. A function takes arguments, and arguments are contained in parentheses. So I have to put equal count and put parentheses around the value that I'm going to count. Now I'll go ahead, and if I switch to my regular view, which is datasheet view, I'm not going to be able to see that value. So what I have to do is I have to switch to form view and come down to product, down to my form footer, and see if there's a value there. You have to do this step. If the value doesn't work here, it will not work in your main form. It's got to work here first. So you need to create a correct calculation, and you need to make sure that it works. You do that by going into form view and checking the value that's in that box that you just put in there. And I'm going to go back to design view, because if I'm going to call this box from my main form, I need to give it a name that has meaning. So I'll open up my property sheet. Right now, the name of this box is text 12. Now to some of you, you may go, that's an easy way, I'm just going to call text 12. Well, I want it to have a name that makes sense to me. So I'm going to pick a name that goes along with the naming conventions that, excuse me, that we've used in the book. And the book says I'm going to call this, excuse me, I'm going to cough here. I'm going to call it TXT invoice num count, or product ID count. So I'm going to call this TXT product ID count. So it's a text box, and it is counting the product ID. Okay. and I'm going to copy that because I'm going to use it later. So now I'm going to switch back out of here to my main form, and I'm going to put a formula here. Now, in the book has you use Expression Builder. I don't like Expression Builder. If you like Expression Builder, go with it. I don't like it. I'm going to do the calculations by hand, and I'm going to come in and open up my property sheet. Then from my property sheet, I'm going to zoom, and I'm going to put my formula in a zoom box. Now I'm going to increase the font size so that I can see it, and I'm going to set the value of this is going to be equal to FRM partial. This is the problem with using the zoom box, is you have to spell everything correctly. If you use the Expression Builder, Access will spell it for you. Partial product subform, dot form, bang, because it's user created. And then I'm going to put in the value that I copied. And so here is the name of the form. It is a form. I created it. Go look in this text box and bring back the value that you find there. Now sometimes when you go to form view right after you put in a formula, it doesn't work. And you switch back to design view and back to form view and it will work. But sometimes that happens. So let's switch to form view. Got it. Got it the first time. That doesn't always happen, but sometimes when you put the formula in, it doesn't quite read it properly, and so switch back to design view and back to form view. You can also close the form out, reopen it if you're sure that your calculation is correct, and sometimes closing the whole database out and reopening it will make things work. That's the end of this segment.